Race 1 at Randwick is the Fernhill Mile, 1600 metres for the 2-year-olds, and this bunch of 2-year-olds getting out to the mile for the first time in their careers. So I'm thinking there's some upside with Michelangelo. 4, 5, 2 and 1. He's the horse that has the best grounding here. He strikes this race 4th up, so a good fitness tick, and he comes through the Ballieu. I like that reference behind Nepotism, who's going to be hard to beat in a Champagne Stake. So Tommy Berry steers, Chris Waller trains, and I think he will appreciate the extra journey. Spicy Lou, now she's been coming through Country Company, but I like what she's done there. She's been betting the older horses, which is not an easy thing to do for a 2-year-old. She ran good time there, winning last start, and there was a 6-length gap back to 3rd, so not surprised there has been some early support for her. Polish Playgirl, unlucky last start in Melbourne, just got snookered away on the fence, and had she seen daylight earlier, I think she wins that race. And then you've got Tupakara, who is the quality runner. She also comes through the Ballieu, but my query with her is whether she'll run a strong mile. That's something she'll have to answer on Saturday. But Michelangelo on top, 4, 5, 2 and 1. Race 2 at Randwick is the South Pacific Classic, 1400 metres, and it's for the 3-year-olds. Numbers 7, 4, 5 and 11. A lot of different form references coming into this. And now, I know that Kanara comes through 2 midweek races, which is going to create a little bit of uncertainty. However, she's no stranger to black type company. The horse that she's been in and around in this campaign, they have gone right on with the job. So there's depth to that form, despite it being in lesser company. This looks a target race, 3rd up, 1400 metres, and she was great at the back end of last campaign. So at odds, I'm in her corner on an each-way basis. Zach Lloyd and Chris Waller. Sergeant Major, he comes through the Derby Munro. That looks the obvious form reference, given they all bumped into a smart one, didn't they, in Autumn Glow. She looks a budding superstar. He just raced like he wanted 1400 metres. He gets that there on Saturday, maps to get the right run just in behind the speed, and if he can get a clean getaway and take advantage of that, he'll be hard to hold out. No strings attached, runs well, untapped horse. Up from Melbourne, I like the way that he dove through to win there last start, showed really good desire. And Meridiana comes through a midweek maiden, but she really put her rivals to the sword. So as far as upside goes, she's the one with it all still in front of her. But Kanara at odds, 7, 4, 5 and 11. Race 3 at Randwick is the Provincial Midway Championships final, 1400 metres. Capacity field, and it's going to be truly run, I would have thought. So 1, 8, 2 and 11. That'll mean that Machelate has to absorb a bit of early pressure, but he is the class runner. His benchmark rating tells you that. He's the horse that's still lightly raced. He hasn't done a lot of racing recently, and I guess if there's a silver lining to that, it is that his rating to this point has been largely protected. So he was great winning the qualifier to get here. He improved sharply 1st up to 2nd up, and it wasn't all that long ago he was giving Here to Shock a run for his money. With due respect to the rest of the field, none of these would get within half a length of that horse. Money team, we're going to need a Craig Williams special because he's drawn horribly, but he's flying for Brad Widdop, a new recruit to the yard. He'll give away a big head start, but had to like the way that he won there last start. And Mogul Monarch has come out and franked that form line. Lord of Biscay comes through that same form reference as Machelate. He's been freshened since he qualified for this. And do note that Chris Lees has already trained 5 winners in this series, and there's only been 10 runnings, and Wrapped. Look for her to be rattling home at the finish. She's another horse that comes into this on the back of a freshen up. But class to shine through with Machelate, 1, 8, 2 and 11. Race 4 at Randwick is the Percy Sykes Stakes, 1200 metres, and it's for the 2-year-olds. Looking at numbers here, 7, 5, 2 and 1. Savvy Halley, she looks the one that the market has unfairly dismissed. Has done very little wrong in her career to date, even on debut. She really made the Black Opal winner work for it in King of Pop. Since then, she's held her form through a Riesling where she half missed the kick, got out the back, and then was good behind Nepotism in the Ballieu last start. So she's had a busy campaign and does have to come back in journey, but at the price, I'm happy to take the punt because she'll give a sight here if she's not in front, just in behind the speed, and shouldn't have any excuses from there. Jay Ford does the steering, and Brad Widdop is your trainer. So 7, 5, 2, 1. Dangers in Karuna. She skipped the Golden Slipper instead to run here. That looks a good setup for her because a lot of these are probably coming to the end of their campaign, whereas she's still the fresh horse on the scene. She ticked off the 1200 metre box there last start and has trialled sweetly since. Too Tempted has been to a lot of big dances, so she's obviously a filly that has a great constitution because if she showed any signs of training off, she wouldn't be here. So that's a tick, trained by James Cummings. Does map to give away a big head start, but she'll be finishing strong. And then Within the Law, who was a complete forget in the Golden Slipper. She put herself through the inside running rail, and she is a winner. Her strike rate tells you that. But at the odds, Savvy Halley on top, 7, 5, 2 and 1. Race 5 at Randwick is the Arrowfield 3-year-old sprint 1200 metres, and we have our shortest price favourite of the day, and that is Autumn Glow. I'm not going to tip against her, I can't. I think she's simply too good for these, and we'll make it 5 from 5 to kick off her career. So 8, 3, 2 and 1. So dynamic, winning the Derby Munro there last start. The gamble going into that race was how effective she would be over the 1200 metres. Well, she answered that and did it emphatically. Big margins, fast time. If she repeats that, she'll win again. Enriched actually ran second to her in that race, and I think he'll hold that form. Can't see him turning the tables, but the fact that he's second pick tells you everything you need to know about the dominance of Autumn Glow and the stranglehold she has in this race. Public attention has been freshened up since running in the Kiwi. Touch disappointing there last start, but maybe 1500 metres just saw him out. He was good over the Randwick 1200 metres first up where he beat Linebacker, so a little freshened up should see him react well and bounce back to his best form. And you've got Private Life, who was disappointing last start, but we are talking Group 1 weight for age form. There is a precedent that he can run well off the back of a freshen up back to a sprint trip. So 8, 3, 2 and 1. Race 6 at Randwick is the staying feature for the 3-year-old fillies, the Australian Oaks 2400 metres. Again, we've got a short price favourite in Treasure the Moment. So 2541, Treasure the Moment. She won the Vinery last start. She did it comfortably, and I don't think she was at her best on the wet track. So the prospect of a dry surface on Saturday should see her win again. She's got the picket fence. She'll make her own luck, and there doesn't look to be a lot of pressure on paper, so I can't see her being beaten. 5, Belle de Tell, comes through the Adrian Knox, and she did a great job there. So only Jimmy Starr clocked the faster last 200 metre split across the entire meeting. So I love that turn of foot, and going back to the point that it does shape to be a slowly run race, she'll get to use that turn of foot, and she is a close relation to Very Elegant, so should relish 2400 metres. Verona Rose, she was doing her best work through the line behind Treasure the Moment in the Vinery. Unlikely to turn the tables, but she's trending quite nicely. She won the Kembla Grange Classic the start prior. And then you've got the New Zealand Oaks winner in Like a Lucy. I did think she was more dynamic, winning over 2000 metres and 2100 metres prior to that win, but she's got a good fitness base, has been up for a long time, now trained by Chris Waller. So 2, 5, 4 and 1. Race 7 at Randwick is the Sydney Cup 3200 metres, and I think it's a race that can throw up a few rough results, and that might be the case again this year. So 14, 18, 8 and 1 for Circle of Fire. He won this race 12 months ago, and it was an outstanding staying performance. He was wide the trip, yet he's still powered clear now. The trade-off from that is that he does rise 3.5 kilos, but he looks to be cherry ripe. He comes through the Tancred where he did more than enough. He's just been left flat-footed at his past couple of starts, so he looks ready to fire now. And if we see the best of Circle of Fire, he'll be in the finish, and you're getting a big price to find out. He'll work across to offset the wide gate. Strathday, Chris Waller has won this race, the Sydney Cup, 5 times in the past, 4 of them coming through the Chairman's. He fits that profile. Down in the weights, he was doing his best work through the line. He'll have to turn the tables on Al Alcance, but if she's put out of her rhythm at any point here, she might be vulnerable at the end of 2 miles. That's the gamble, but she's been dominant at her past two. Her last start performance in the Chairman's and prior to that in the Mannion, where she just ran her rivals into the ground, says that she's gone to a completely new level. And then you've got the class runner in Duke de Sessa. He's a Caulfield Cup winner, has to prove himself at the trip, but he should get the right run, and he too comes through the Tancred when second to Dubai Honour. 4, 18, 8 and 1. Race 8 at Randwick is the Queen Elizabeth Stakes, the big one at Group 1, weight for age, 2,000 metres, and this has attracted an international field. Via Sistina on top, 12, 1, 2 and 8, just profiles perfectly for this. I think James McDonald can use the inside gate, get a drag up in what promises to be a truly run race, and she can showcase the dominance that we saw her win the Cox Plate by when she made a mess of them. I don't think she'll ever repeat that performance, but she doesn't have to get away with this. 4th up, sense of timing, and this has been her grand final all the way through. She looks to have the locals covered, which makes you wonder what the internationals can do here. So Dubai Honour, he won this race 2 years ago. The stable have made no secret of the fact that he's probably more of a 2400 metre horse these days, and that was case in point with his dominance there in the Tancred last start. So drier track back in journey, not ideal, but I'm not going to start doubting his class. Rusham Park, across from Japan, he can be a bit hit and miss, but if the best of Rusham Park turns up, we know that his form is good enough. That narrow second to Rebels Romance is a wonderful form reference. And then you've got Lindemann, who I think represents the best roughie. You can throw him into your trifecta, should get the right run just in behind the speed. But 12, 1, 2 and 8 in the Queen Elizabeth. Race 9 at Randwick is the Group 1 Queen of the Turf Stakes, 1600 metres, and we'll get to see Fangirl strut her stuff. So 1, 3, 2 and 12, she should be too good for these. It's been a long time, a number of years in fact, since we've seen Fangirl race against the fillies and mares. Here she is. She was so brave in defeat there last start. It was against the pattern. She was wide, she was working, yet still only narrowly beaten at the finish. So she's the horse to beat. The market says as much. Great record at Randwick, loves dry tracks, and she runs for James McDonald. He's ridden her 12 times for 6 wins. Chris Waller has a strong handle here. The stablemate looks the obvious threat in a tissue. There's a proven formula with her, 2,000 metres back to the mile, which seems to work well. She won this race 2 years ago and was beaten in a photo finish just last year behind Zugotcha. So Fangirl's different gravy compared to a tissue and Zugotcha, but she has to be respected here, and I believe this is her swan song before being retired. Steffi Magnetica on the backup from winning the Doncaster, and then you've got the 3-year-old filly Lazura, who should have won the Emancipation, didn't have a lot of luck. She'll run well. 1, 3, 2 and 12. Race 10 at Randwick is the Sapphire Stakes over the 1200 metres, and it's for the fillies and mares. Commemorative looking to atone for that unlucky defeat there in the Galaxy. She would have gone close had she seen daylight. So 5, 3, 8 and 1. The big tick for her here is not only coming back in grade and against her own sex, but drawn wide seems to work for her. She's a big, imposing mare, and she likes galloping room. So I don't see that as a negative. I see it as a positive, in fact. So James McDonald does the steering. James Cummings is your trainer. Alencia, I wouldn't score her down given she comes back in journey. She comes through a really fast Coolmore, ran to her level, couldn't have gone much better, but do note that 4 of her 7 career wins have come over the 1200 metres. Like the map for her, she'll be coupled up on the fence, and we know she's got an electric turn of foot. Osmar looks your leader. That's where she found herself last start. She was an all-the-way winner. They used her speed, and she ran out a strong 1200 metres. Catch me if you can again. And then you've got the class of Lady Laguna. She'll strip fitter for that Galaxy run. Was no match for Commemorative late, but she was only first up, and there is history to suggest that she does bounce off a run and improve second up. So 5, 3, 8 and 1 in the last.